Nicki Minaj and Jimmy Fallon filmed a viral dinner, eating at Red Lobster, which has accumulated a whopping 17 million views. The video has a funny and light-hearted tone. But there's something seriously wrong with this video. Although on the surface this seems like an innocent little dinner date, but hidden under the fun small talk and jokey vibe, there is something a lot more sinister happening here, which if you follow along, I hope to uncover by the end of this video. Have you ever sat in a restaurant and saw these little beings with their claws bound, looking fearful in a tank? And thought, man, I wish I could rescue one. I know I have. In fact, one day an activist in London couldn't help but rescue one from a restaurant, and after finding out they were a seawater crab, me and a friend drove them out to the beach to return them to the ocean, thinking they'd have a much better chance at survival than they would in a seafood restaurant. We called the little rescue crab Sebastian, after the character in The Little Mermaid. Whether you believe Sebastian was a crab or a lobster is a separate, more controversial issue. But I remember as a kid being horrified when Sebastian was nearly cooked by Chef Lewis. I was cheering for Sebastian when he managed to claw the chef in the nose and escape unharmed. This speaks to our innate compassion we have for animals as children. But somewhere along the line, we're disconnected from that empathy. Lobsters and crabs belong to the group decapod crustaceans, where decapod refers to being 10-footed. This category also includes crayfish, shrimp and prawns. Around 43 to 75 billion crayfish, crabs and lobsters were killed in recorded aquaculture production in 2017. But why does that matter? They're only mindless, thoughtless, feelingless, tasty appetizers, right? Wrong. In this 2021 review of the evidence of sentience in cephalopods and decapod crustaceans, the preponderance of evidence suggests that crustaceans, like lobsters and crabs, are sentient and can experience pain and suffering. These animals possess a sophisticated central nervous system that allows them to interpret their environment in nuanced ways. When crustaceans react to harmful stimuli, they move away, flick their tails, or adopt defensive postures. These responses are not just reflexes. Studies show they adapt their behaviour based on past experiences, which indicates learning and memory. When exposed to electric shocks, crabs not only show avoidance behaviours, but also show signs of anxiety and stress. Exposure to noxious stimuli can lead to long-term changes in crustaceans' behaviour. This suggests a lasting memory of the painful event. Furthermore, crustaceans have been observed rubbing and nursing injuries, similar to vertebrates, and administering them pain relief drugs reduces their pain-related behaviours. Research from the 2021 review was so convincing it led the UK government to recognise decapod crustaceans as sentient beings. But unfortunately, even with the official recognition of sentience, the government said, quote, existing industry practices will not be affected and there will be no direct impact on shellfish catching or in restaurant kitchens. So sadly, these animals will remain legally unprotected, which is even more terrible when you consider some of the methods used to catch and kill them. Decapod crustaceans destined for human consumption are either caught from the wild or on farms. Capture methods vary, but all pose welfare issues, including shifts in barometric pressure, physical trauma, crushing, exhaustion, and increased death. Wild-caught crustaceans are exposed to stresses such as air, light, fluctuating temperature, and noise. Close and dense confinement causes injuries, infections, and aggression. Claw nicking is a method of rendering claws immobile for easy handling and to prevent fighting. Parts of the claw are broken and cut, causing open wounds. This leads to infections and to an increased death rate of around 83% in nicked crabs compared to 16.7% in non-nicked crabs. Claw banding, a less invasive form of immobilization, can cause muscle atrophy and stress. Transport methods for crustaceans vary by ocean, air and land, and can last for several days, causing extreme stress and high levels of mortality. When these creatures finally get to their destination, they will be killed. While stunning and slaughter methods vary, they're all unacceptable. Practices like dismemberment, chilling, and exposure to high salt solutions lead to prolonged suffering. Other methods like chemical anesthetics and CO2 gassing also pose serious welfare concerns. Mechanical killing, either by spiking or splitting, pose a high risk of severe suffering due to the accuracy required, which is easy to get wrong in decapod crustaceans, who have non-centralized nervous systems. But the most notoriously cruel method by far is boiling alive. Live boiling causes prolonged and severe agony and distress. The animals can be seen struggling, thrashing, and trying to escape, with some holding on for dear life to avoid the extreme heat. Electrical stunning, when practiced correctly, is the only method without prolonged suffering, with research showing a total loss of consciousness in around 1 second. I would hardly call being electrocuted to death a humane practice, especially when you consider everything else that happens to these complex beings before slaughter. But you see, slaughter, no matter how quick and painless, violates the animal's right to their own life. And when you realise how aware these animals are, it becomes clear that any method of killing is wrong. especially when done to merely satisfy our trivial taste preferences. So what's the solution to all this? Well, we know the government won't rush to change laws to actually protect these animals, but there is something we can all do to help.
Me help you.
Because the abuse, cruelty and killing of all animals raised for food, not just crustaceans, happens within a supply and demand system, it highlights the real power we have as consumers. We can curtail our demand by boycotting our support for these industries. You see, they'll stop supplying the violence when we stop buying the violence. So the solution is to simply choose plant-based foods instead. Finally, this brings me back to Nicki Minaj. You see, posting videos that encourage 17 million viewers to eat crustaceans increases the demand, and therefore the brutality inflicted onto these animals. This shows the responsibility highly influential celebrities like Nicki have when promoting the consumption of these creatures, especially when so many people look up to her. So to end, I'd like to encourage Nicki, her fans, and the rest of the world to start respecting the sentient beings with whom we share this planet by living vegan. And I think Sebastian would like that too. Hey Sebastian.
Yes! Thank you.